about your time in Brazil. Tell us that story. Tell us what happened while you were there.
It was at the time of the carnival, what they call the carnival. And in Brazil, witchcraft and spiritism is really something very, very big. On every street in every suburb there are spiritists and people who very seriously practice spiritism and witchcraft, and people go to spiritists and fortune tellers, and it's very powerful and heavy-duty stuff. What happens is that on the final night at midnight, people gather in the very center of the city, like the central city square. They are told that they have to black out, that the spirits require that a square mile of the city center has to be completely blacked out. And the city organizes that, so they turn all the electricity off. And the whole point of it is for this, the leading spiritists come and they play their drums and they have this ritual and do all sorts of, you know, witchcraft kind of stuff. And the purpose is to call down the predominant ruling principalities and powers of the region. You can call him Satan if you like. And when that happens, and the leading spiritist is a key figure here, where he knows when that's happened because he becomes he becomes possessed by the ruling spirit, and he knows when that happens. And at that point, in this ceremony, the mayor of the city hands over the keys. He has a bunch of keys. He hands over the keys of the city to the demonic power. And this is done every year. I mean, it's amazing that people do this kind of pagan thing, but there it is. The ones who went were, the strategy was that they should position themselves just throughout the crowd, that they would intermingle and be there just as normal people, spies if you like, and they would intercede. They would just sit there, stand there, and inside them quietly just be worshiping God and interceding, worshiping God, magnifying God, focusing on Jesus and declaring in their hearts the lordship of Jesus, and just focusing on just worship in a sense. And this was the strategy to do that. So they did that. And what happened at the event was that they did the pagan celebration, beating the drums and the dancing and all sorts of various rituals. And the demonic powers would not come down. And they tried harder and they carried on and carried on. And the long and short of the story is that eventually they gave up. And the leading spiritist then spoke to the crowd and said, "We can't do this tonight because the demonic principality of the region, the demonic spirits will not come down. They're not coming. And the reason for this," he said, "is that there are spies in our midst here that are preventing this from happening." The wonderful thing is that that year, the keys of the city of Recife were not handed over to the demonic powers for the ensuing year. And it's just an incredible story that happened, and that confession came out by the leading spiritist that it had all been prevented because there were spies. And there's just incredible spiritual warfare in that. We don't have to shout. I mean, these people were not shouting. They were standing there just silently doing what God had told them to do, and that was to worship Him in their hearts. That such a few people can counteract what thousands of people were wanting to happen. That just a mere handful doing what God has given them to do can influence a community, a city, and hold back the forces of evil for the whole city. And that's just amazing that if that just one person or two people or three people made it impossible to do what the powers of darkness wanted or what the spiritists wanted to happen. Once upon a time, there was a country called Brazil.